So, Project Nexus is a community of hope-filled, cause-driven leaders. We've talked about cause-driven. It's time to talk about hope-filled.
And that's the first one. We lead with that.
Yeah, we actually went the other way around.
Yeah.
So if you've watched the other one...
No one knows the order.
Well, they do now.
We do now. I've just revealed that we've gone the other way around. So, there you go. Welcome behind the scenes. So we're hope-filled, cause-driven. We discussed this cause-driven. But for me, Tory, there's to be successfully, continuously cause-driven, hope has to be our starting point.
Absolutely.
And surely it has to be our fuel to continue to move forward.
Yeah.
Not just once, I think is key, right? You probably pull off having a go at something once and maybe not be full of hope in that moment, but I think consistently.
To do it again.
Do it again and again. The leaders that we work with and the conversation we want to have, what are the markers of the kind of hope that you think we're talking about here? What are we trying to get people to start to wonder about this idea of
I've
hope?
got two.
Go.
And the first is related to what you just said about being cause-driven. I think hope relating to dreaming, like...
It's a good word.
Yeah. I think it's a big word that we dismiss because maybe it seems kind of juvenile or ignorant.
Flighty.
Yeah, but that is an inherently hopeful thing.
Right.
So hope in terms of...
Not to have the dream, is it? But to pursue the dream.
Yeah, and to allow yourself to imagine it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to being cause-driven, it's not just that you have a concern that you are busying yourself with.
Yeah.
You actually have maybe a vision of a better outcome or a better way that you're moving towards. And I think dreaming plays a big role in that. So my first is hope in terms of that. Like, what do you see happening in terms of your cause or the community or the thing that you have on your heart, the thing that you care about? Do you have hope to see something change and something good happen, to see something birthed?
So it's hope connected to preferred future.
Yes, future.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't just have an idea of what it could be, but I
and
actually think it can happen.
And that it can be good.
Yeah, I think it can happen.
And
That it can be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my second thing is, then we could talk more about.
Sure, we'll come back. Yeah, no, for
But
sure.
my second thing that I think, I'm going to say for me, this one might be even more important. And that's hope relating to people.
Okay.
So, and this is where we talk about being grace-oriented even.
Yeah.
It
Yes,
comes
we do.
for me believing in the potential and capacity of people and the systems that are made up of them, believing in the capacity and potential despite what they have been to you or been for you or the way that you've experienced them previously. Because we've talked about cause-driven leadership being about people. You can't escape that. So if you're going to be a hope-filled cause-driven person,
Right.
you have to know that even if you've had bad experiences or you know, because humanity, mixed bag. Let's be honest, okay?
This table's a mixed bag. Let's be
Well,
honest.
human.
Yeah.
So I think hope, and I think
Yep.
maybe the even more challenging part of hope is that has to extend to the way that you see people.
Right.
Because you're not describing there that you can change them. You're describing that they can change.
Yeah.
Change is possible.
Change is possible,
Well,
yeah.
so
that's a big deal.
Or not, and change could be hope for change, but also could be hope, again, just like with the future being possible and good, that people can also be good, which seems like, well, okay, for some people that's a given. For others, absolutely that's not a given, and they assume the opposite, and when we're talking about the things that we talk about at Project Nexus, you have to be grace-oriented. There has to be hope in you that pertains and extends to the people around you, or else how far are you going to get?
Right.
Because you know how, like, for me, I know how I have changed and that I can change. But it's hard to extend that to another person without the word that you use, which was grace. But that requires so much hope and forgiveness and sacrifice, like in the extension of it, because you could get burnt. Like you're extending hope.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's going to be returned
Yeah.
or it's going to be acknowledged or appreciated or any of those things. They could totally just burn you in it.
Yeah.
And you could be back going, wow, I should not have had hope there. But is that right? You still should have hope, yeah?
Yeah. Well, then that's kind of what in one of the last conversations talking about like when it goes, it's doing it again.
Yeah.
What you were saying,
Yeah.
doing it again.
Yeah. Having the hope to go again.
Yeah.
right?
So hope the first time
Yeah.
versus hope the second time.
It's,
Yeah.
it's different.
It's
It is.
But
different.
it's still hope, right?
It's
Yeah.
it's kind of it's informed hope that hope is risky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or inherently it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. So what's interesting, we use the words catalyst for good
Yeah.
to describe cause driven. So what you're actually saying now is that that there's potential for good. We believe there is the good exists, really, ultimately. So we want to catalyze good as we go into our cause. We want to be people who lead and communicate and speak out the fact that things can be different, things can change, things can be good, that we can actually see good things happen, and they're the things we want to lead. But ultimately then hope-filled really is the informed position that we actually believe it is possible that goodness can exist, that actually good things can happen.
Yeah.
That we're in a place where it's not just inevitable. The things are just broken and a mess, and this is the way things are. We actually have a hope that things can be good.
Yeah. And just the potential in people. And I'm not saying potential for what, because that really depends on what we're talking about. But
Sure.
that there is potential within people and also your ideas or your cause or
Well, so let's explore the shadow side for a moment.
yes, let's.
Because to live as a person not filled with hope, who is not hopeful, we'll park leadership for a second. Let's just
Okay.
talk about being a person. Who's that we'll get to, or we believe we can all lead. That's a different thing. But if hope isn't a fundamental element or part of your everyday, that's a pretty. I get why that's
Have you experienced it?
sure.
I have too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
for a handful of years back to back,
Yeah.
it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Like it is futile, and now I don't care about my cause because I don't even believe that if I was to put my hand to the work or to commit any part of my energy to it or talk about with anybody, or
Yeah.
I don't have a hope that it could bear fruit ever.
You're disillusioned.
Yeah. Disillusionment for sure.
Now take that into leadership,
Yes.
Yeah.
non-Tory.
Yeah.
You'll
Well,
take us
just
there.
like hope.
Yeah.
How often do you hear people talk about hope-filled leadership? I don't hear that very often. But then lacking it, like the shadow side of that, we all know what that looks like in leaders, either because we've been that or because we've been underneath that sort of leader, or we've seen it play out, or we've seen people that we know have to experience that.
Yeah.
And that honestly, sometimes that looks like management, sometimes that looks like disempowering leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In leadership, hope is wildly important, but it's not something that really I think is like explicitly
Well,
named
literally in
as often.
some leadership training, they teach you to not raise expectations, which is hope. Yeah. But what they're saying there is don't promise too much and don't raise expectations because you will raise hope. And inevitably, you won't be able to live up to it.
Yeah.
Well,
So
okay.
therefore, people around you will be disillusioned.
Yeah.
And then you'll be crucified because you
Yeah.
didn't hit the targets
It's a
or
very
whatever
bad
that you
way
said.
to keep your job.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
But literally
managing
they do-
expectations
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that you don't let people
They
down.
literally teach that. Whereas the flip side is to say, I have this hope. To which when, say, like a coach comes onto the scene and they say, I have this hope, you have all these commentators that gather around going, oh, I wouldn't have said that. or he or she's promising too much, or blah, blah, blah. And you go, no, they're not. They're just stepping into the job with some hope. Like, give them a break.
Like, what do you think is the role of like ego in this then? Because what
Yeah.
I'm hearing is that when you have a fragile ego,
Sure.
and you're concerned about maybe not following through, not producing the thing that you've named, it's risky in terms of maybe reputation if you're looking at leadership from a certain perspective.
Well, the certain perspective being that actually it's all about you in the first place, that you actually would be the person to generate that of yourself, I think.
And that the results are a direct reflection of you.
And therefore you also bask in the glory if you get anything right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll get into that in a second. That is definitely a certain posture of leadership we're not wanting to advocate for. So where does ego play? I think it's huge. Well, I think it's anything that's infatuated with self and not others is that you're not considering the other. I'm not seeing the other people, that you are just thinking about yourself and how you are represented in that space.
Yeah, and
for sure.
I think there's two ways to go with that too. In the negative, one of them is to blame others as a leader. Like everyone else is the problem.
If it doesn't
not
happen,
me. Or to victim. Say, oh, I'm the victim of all of this. And it's not really about me, but I was the victim of these circumstances or whatever it is. Whereas the positive, even when things go bad, is to have hope that even the pain that you're currently experiencing can be a good thing that can lead us somewhere.
For sure.
I mean, that's a posture of hope-filled leader.
Yes.
Doesn't matter that we've got some problems at the moment.
Okay.
We can work through this. We can get somewhere. Like, just have hope.
We didn't hit the mark. We
Yeah.
didn't attain where we wanted to be. Things are hard, but there's something for us to learn in this. And it's okay. We can go again.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. You're not blaming someone. You're not playing the victim. You're just saying, this is what we experienced. Let's go again.
This is also why I think it's linked to cause-driven, because if you experience something like you've just described, where you've named a hope or a dream or a vision, and then in a certain instance, that's not what actually comes to fruition. If you are driven by a cause, you do go again, because the cause is still there.
Right.
No matter what the outcome, as opposed to if your leadership is...
And this is where team can help out too.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you the example. I doing Pilates. This is really live sort of stuff, isn't it? But doing Pilates
right now.
Pilates update. Okay.
Yeah, Pilates update. But like in the moment, my instructor is saying to me, I know this is painful. I know that you want to stop. I know you want to play the victim or blame me for putting you in this position, but have hope. We'll push through some of this pain. You will get a benefit on the other side that will be super valuable to you.
Yeah.
To which in the moment, I commonly want to say, get lost in a more aggressive way. But she's right. Like that person that it can gather around you that is a little bit detached from what you're experiencing and feeling, like the team that can gather around you to give you hope. Should you keep this course, it will come out.
Yeah.
That is very valuable when you're in that moment and you're doubting whether you should continue and have hope.
So ultimately, the power of hope-filled leadership is actually under stress, rather than in. Like it's actually very easy.
Maybe that's just Pilates.
No, but I think to be the leader that's like, I'm full of hope and everything's going great. The budget's
when you're
looking
making
good.
millions and
everything's
everybody loves you.
Back to the Nexus model.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of in. You've got that kind of woo. It's great, but when the crisis is hit. Back to our model. When when the tough time moment comes, this is the moment, right? This is a character moment.
Yeah.
And this is a moment of where does hope fit into your worldview? Where does it fit into your personal life? And where does it fit in how do you deal with that spiritually as well?
Well, that's,
and also then how do you deal with that in your leadership?
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say is, where does your hope come from?
Sure.
So at this point, we've been speaking about it.
Yeah.
What we haven't named is that we actually share like an ultimate hope in something that is transcendent.
Sure.
So if I don't know, if I wasn't someone who had an experience of God, I don't know where I would draw my hope from. But I am. And so for me and for everything that we talk about, there's actually something that we would consider very steady that we are able to draw our hope from, right? It's not just out of thin air or power positive thinking,
Sure.
which we've talked about. Power positive thinking, I think, is a legit thing as well.
Totally, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But spiritually, as leaders who are first we have a model of leadership, but we also have, like we talked about with the Isaiah 43 passage, are we making our own ways as leaders, or do we have hope for the stream in the desert?
Yeah.
Right. So it comes back to that fundamental
Yes.
passage, right?
Yes.
It comes back to the character and the nature of God.
Yes.
Who do you believe?
Yeah.
And is that something to have hope in?
Yeah. For me, it's not just an untethered,
Sure.
abstract hope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I totally, though, even as a Christian at one point when I lost faith, my lack of hope stemmed from the fact that I thought God was just out to get me. And I thought, why bother? This is just nonsense.
Yeah.
But that collective, in that sense, lack of hope, when I literally don't think I've got anywhere to turn to get some hope.
Yeah.
You just go, it's both dark, but at the same time, disillusionment's not quite the word. It's
Yeah.
much more darker than that.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
Despair.
yeah. But then understanding that God, his heart's for me and is walking with me, like actually not in words.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the words on a page.
Sure.
Yeah.
Terrible at remembering Bible verses anyway, but knowing that, and then like the empowerment of that to have hope,
Yeah.
even when everything seems against you, is
Yes.
immense. Like it is
Yeah.
actually immense.
And belief in God is not enough.
No.
What is the nature and the character of the God you believe in?
Yeah,
And
sure.
that's something for me similarly I can relate to having an experience where I was like, I know I am so convinced that God exists, but I don't think that he has good plans for me. Like I think he's on about something else. And for me, that's something that has been shaped and changed.
Yeah.
So it's not just, if you believe in God,
Yeah.
sick. But like, what kind of God do you believe
Yeah,
in?
correct.
Because that
Right, yeah.
is, that's huge
Yeah.
to this
It
conversation.
really is.
Yeah.
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 You can have grown up in the church and in communities of faith your whole life, but do you believe in a God that brings life and life abundant and all the things we've spoken about? Or
How
do
many
you believe
versions
in
of God have been
Oh, absolutely.
shared?
Yeah.
Well, I had this conversation with a very good friend of mine just the other day. You know, he was talking about, he gave me all these reasons why God wasn't something and was something, and I said, "You've explained to me lots of reasons why people aren't, but you haven't told me anything about the nature of God. You're upset that people have let you down. Of course, people let you down. People who claim to have relationships with God let you down. Like that's the human experience. But I have hope that can be different, and I have hope that God is still good, and that things can be changed and situations can be changed. And so it's the steadfast hope that kind of outlasts
Yeah.
those things. And I want to have hope for myself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
forget about like projecting. That's not just about kind of dreaming on behalf of other people or hoping about. I have to fundamentally believe and be hopeful of my life
Yeah.
and my capacity to be different and for God to do a work in my life. I mean,
How can you lead other people in a way that's hope-filled if you
What does
haven't
it-
tasted it?
and that's based in the fact that I'm a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not based in the fact that I've got it
Yeah.
together or I'm super smart and I'm
Absolutely,
together.
amen.
The fact is, my hope is that, so if I have that hope for that to be true for myself, I want
Yeah.
to have that hope for others, on behalf of
Yeah.
others.
And totally. That's the only way that I can have, particularly about this whole grace-oriented thing. That is the only way that I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no way. There's
Yeah.
no way I would extend that to people. I struggle to even with the
Sure.
experience that
Yeah.
you've just talked about. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's the only thing that enables me.
So the question is, are we open to the idea that hope is a reality that we can hold on to? Are we close to it? How do we respond? I think you're coming there of just saying, there's blame other things and I can
victim.
shift and I can victim mentality. I can kind of, well, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We can do all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
Can I raise this is a question, and
Yeah.
we haven't pre-prepared this,
no,
but
go.
Never.
the value of I have hope versus we should have hope. Like I'm not a fan of a leader speaking from that posture of saying we should have hope. It's emotionally distant. It's
Well,
putting it onto others rather than them talk about it.
Psychologist I know would tell me you were shooting all over yourself.
Yeah. But I have a whole mass of sermons written by Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And
Who has a dream, by the way.
he does, correct. He says, I have, though, yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
No, we
and-
should.
Correct. And the preface to each sermon is the event of that week in the neighborhood where he preaches.
Right.
So like say X number of people died because of some sort of racial issue that flared up and people were killed. To which his community no doubt wanted him to say, we should go and get them. How dare they do that to us?
Right.
And he says, I have hope that if we are, it's like one of them's on forgiveness. And I sit there and read that and I go, what did those people think in the church that day? Because surely they're on the edge of wanting to riot or do something. Like one week after another, people are dying, and he dares to stand up in a church and say to the community, I have hope. Like, he uses I and speaks that way, consistent with that speech, saying, I have hope that if we are people of forgiveness, this will turn around. I mean, it does eventually. Not that week, though.
It's a long time.
Because he goes to another church in a different community the week after, but he keeps week after week.
Carries that hope.
Correct.
On behalf of.
Even though it's seemingly getting darker and darker. He doesn't say that I have a dream speech when everything's turned around. He stands up in the middle of...
I had a dream.
Yeah. Or,
Previously.
Yeah.
I just didn't tell you about it.
Yeah. And this is all perfect
Right.
now, and I can declare this because you'll all agree with me. That's not what he's saying.
No.
It's in a moment where he's actually calling people to be bigger and live bigger than what they have done.
Yeah.
And to have a hope that they can't see because it's not there. All they can see is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that call of hope in that moment when he owns it and says, look, I'm not putting this on you. I'm not saying we should. I'm not even saying you should necessarily. But join with me as I say, I have hope for this.
Yeah.
Will you join with me? That's a different declaration as a leader, don't you think?
100%.
Yeah.
You know
Too
what
often I hear people say, we should. And I think, I don't know that you believe it when you say we should.
Yeah.
That's a problem, I think.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about the fact that we see what we look for.
Yeah.
So if you, Martin Luther King
Correct.
Jr., me, if I'm looking for reasons to be hopeful, I'm going to find them.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for reasons to despair or be discouraged or be negative or expect a
You won't
bad
need to look far.
outcome, I will find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you train yourself to see?
And point out then to others.
Yeah.
Is the power then, right?
Yeah.
So I have hope. I see. I believe.
Yeah.
I have a dream.
Yeah.
I do, and the call then as a hope-filled leader
Yeah.
is to say that and see who might want to respond and say, I may not be there yet, but I think I'd like to join you in hoping myself. So now when we individually all hold that hope, now we hope.
Yeah.
It's still not a should, it's a reality now.
Yeah.
Now we have a hope.
Yeah.
We have a dream together, but it takes each of us to own that and to step in with our own sense of hope, sense of a dream, sense of possibility, sense of solution.
Yeah.
But you're right, the risk there for a person as a leader to declare hope
Yeah.
Yeah.
personally
Yeah.
in the midst of crisis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the midst of pressure,
Again and again.
in the midst of it doesn't make sense. It's countercultural.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's
Sometimes unpopular.
unpopular.
even.
It's not
Yeah.
actually doesn't even seem to be grounded in the reality of the fact of the current situation.
Yes.
It is disputable, as we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Leadership is disputable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is very disputable.
Yeah.
I have a hope and a dream that things can be different.
Yeah.
Get lost.
Yeah.
In what on earth is telling you that
Yeah.
that is true, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the unwavering, bigger picture hope that sustains you through those moments where you can be courageous enough to step forward and say, no, I'm going to lead in this space. Things can and will be different. And I'm going to continue to hold that hope on behalf of people that are maybe not there yet, but that I have a charge to lead.
Yeah.
And together over time, that I will turn into a weed, not because I said so.
Yeah. Because
But
people
because
join.
more people join and pick up the
Yeah.
I.
Yeah. It's good.
And that is where the momentum shifts to now change is possible
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
at that point.
yeah, and that's what I was going to say is hope has practical implications to the way that you conduct yourself
Yeah.
and the choices you make.
Sure.
So it's not just something that exists up here.
Yeah.
Like it has practical outworkings if you're operating out of scarcity or deficit
Yes.
versus abundance or possibility.
Yeah.
Like it actually practically the small things it
does.
changes the way that you operate as a person and as a leader.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
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 I think say it once, it's a thought bubble.
Yeah.
Carry hope for a long time. That's powerful. Yeah.
Well, and that turns into a culture of hope, I think is my other point, right? When you say it more than once, right? Because also you're, as someone leading, as a hope-filled leader, you now are starting to actually create the possibility that a culture of hope will start to exist. When now that starts to become the starting point. And the culture of hope is actually what enables us to see change.
Yeah.
Start to take place
Totally.
in practice,
Yeah.
not just in theory.
Yeah.
Right, because
See it
that's
on the
the
ground.
movement from dream to action.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
therein lies that challenge. What does it look like to hold that in the midst of things that are on the move,
Yeah.
things that are changing, pressure, when
Yeah.
no one else can seem to see what you see?
Yeah.
Mate, I've worked for plenty of people who I've been that person who has led and not held hope on behalf of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've lost it myself. I've
Yeah.
gone, guys, I don't know. We're going down. This thing I don't and I know the difference in me and teams I'm a part of when I start to hold that hope.
Yeah.
And I can see it actually make a tangible difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
I think if you have hope, you will get somewhere, even if it's different than where you thought you would
Sure.
go, or you got there a different way than you anticipated.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
You will
That's my
get
whole life.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then it's what you just said. Where are you going to go? I mean,
Yeah.
With hope, you'll go somewhere.
The reality is,
yeah.
the reality is you become a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
yeah.
And back to you'll see whatever you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
You can start leading and start going, oh, it's all whatever. It's guess what? Absolutely.
Yeah. And as
Absolutely,
an innovator,
you will go there.
nobody will understand I'm doing this alone. It's never going to happen because people are,
Yeah.
fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Versus-
Innovating, you can't innovate in a vacuum. You can't lead in a vacuum. And I think this just becomes fundamental to when we say change is here and it needs a new type of leader.
Yes.
This element is one of the real fundamental pieces of the new type of leader.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm not telling there's work to do here for all of us.
Yeah.
We don't sit
Always.
here as experts.
No,
right? That's one of our
let's
big.
incubate.
It's an ongoing,
well-
and it's an ongoing process always.
Yes.
always.
You will never attain it and it's done, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And so we do not sit here as kind of we've cracked the code.
Yeah.
We see it in our own lives and our own leadership. We see the places where
Yeah.
when we haven't been,
Yeah.
the effects of that.
Yeah.
We've seen it when we have
Yeah.
for some reason had the ability to do that, the effects of that.
We see the need for
To
it.
see the need for it
Yeah.
and to call that out in each other
Yeah.
and to encourage each other to continue to consider this.
Yep.
And encourage each other to stand in hope and declare those I have hope moments
Yep.
when you're leading your thing becomes really, really fundamental to this new type of leadership that I think we want to see
Yes.
a shift towards.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's good.
hope-filled leadership. All right, thanks team.